Coming up
Another reason
on
that
Lyssa.
pleasing is not good for you is because it is not good for the people that you're pleasing. Because, truth be told, at its core, people pleasing is a minor form of manipulation. Okay? So, manipulation.
Hey, listen!
Hey, welcome back to Listen Lyssa. I'm your host, Lyssa. Happy New... Need to invest in some new equipment. Okay, we're good. Happy New Year! Happy New Year. How are you, 2024? You can't be worse than 2023, so I welcome you. It's time to say goodbye to 2023, guys. Bye. Take that one out with the trash. Round it up. Bye. I hated 2023. Oof. Hated it. Today I'm talking to you, my anxious crew, my anxious preoccupied people, my peeps. I have a soft spot in my heart for my anxious preoccupieds. I love you guys because of my origins. That is the attachment style I started with. I understand it well. I know it like the back of my hand. Today we're going to talk about what it's like to be an anxious preoccupied attached individual, what the common tendencies are that the anxious preoccupied will reach for in stressful situations in relationships. Let's get into it.
Let's do it.
As far back as you can remember, you had this overpowering need to prove to everyone around you that you were good, that you had a genuine heart, that you meant well, that your intentions were always in the right place, your heart was in the right place, you weren't doing anything wrong on purpose, you weren't trying to be bad. The mere suggestion that you did something wrong could just send you into a complete breakdown, sobbing of tears, that someone would think that there was malicious intent in your heart. You hated being seen as bad. You loved when people praised you. You loved when people said that you did something great for them. You didn't feel like you ever got enough of it. You always wanted more. You always felt like you needed everyone to be your friend, or at least to like you. As long as they liked you, that was okay, even if you didn't really want to be their friend. Even if you didn't particularly like them. You didn't actually really think too heavily that often about what you liked. You were always thinking about if you were liked by others. It wasn't even on your radar, really, what you liked. Because what you liked was to be liked. And you probably felt like even people that did things that you didn't really like or made you feel uncomfortable, even if you couldn't really pinpoint that feeling at the time, if you were too young to really recognize that someone was making you uncomfortable, someone was making you feel bad feelings, you still wanted that person to like you. Is that wild? Why? Also, you probably really wanted the validation and praise from your parents or your caregivers. And nothing felt better than getting that. And nothing felt better than your friends saying something nice about you or being included at an event or a birthday party or something like that. And when you were excluded, it hurt. It hurt bad. If you have an anxious preoccupied attachment, you probably often felt like you were never really fitting in. You often felt like you were always trying so hard to figure out if you were what people wanted to be around. If you had the qualities that weren't annoying to people, that wouldn't rub people the wrong way. You didn't spend a lot of time thinking about like, what do I want to do? What do I like to do? What am I going to enjoy? You often just thought about who's around and what won't bother them. What will make them want to be around me? What do they like? What will make me look good in their eyes? What can I do for them? But not just because you're just in love with people. This is different. This isn't altruism, and we like to think it is. And there's probably an element that you learn about that along the way as an anxious preoccupied, because I find that there are so many anxious preoccupied people that have such a loving heart. But there's also anxious preoccupied people that do not. I've learned that a portion of this can be very genuine, very altruistic, and very benevolent, but when it's coming out in its raw form and it's forming in your childhood, It's largely a need to be liked, a need for validation. It's not about just wanting to be giving. It's not just because of a loving and giving spirit. Again, that might be an element of it, but where it stems from is a need to be validated, a need to be liked, a need to people please. Okay? For what? For what? For what? For what? For what? Why? Why the heck would anyone do this all their lives? It's stressful. It's isolating. It makes you feel like you're not fitting in. It makes you feel like you're different and you're not good enough. So why would people do this? Well, the same reason that avoidant attachments do their avoidant things, and the same reason that fearful avoidants do their avoidant things, and their anxious things. The same reason all people do all things. A need to be loved, and a fear of abandonment, and a fear of judgment, and a fear of rejection. Ding, ding, ding. That's why we're all doing it. The first common coping mechanism of a person with anxious preoccupied attachment style is people pleasing. Ding, 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 ding. Now, I'm gonna need y'all to bear with me, because what would I know about people pleasing? Everything. I know everything about it. I know everything about it. I've only been one my whole life, all the time, forever. So I know everything about it. My entire life. Okay, so yeah, cut the crap. I have been a people pleaser my whole life, so pretty much an expert on this topic. Check, check. But not anymore, because I'm working on it, and I don't think that I do it as much anymore, if I should say so myself.
Stop the cap.
I still do it sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
I still do it in a lot of ways. It goes deep. It runs deep. Okay, so let's get into that. An emotional need to make other people happy and to be seen in a high regard by other people, often at the expense of yourself. So you would put other people's needs ahead of your own if push comes to shove, and someone else's need is in direct opposition of your need at that time. A people pleaser would likely sacrifice their own need, put themselves in a detriment to go ahead and please the other person. It is pretty common for humans, just in general, to want to make other people happy to some degree. That's a natural human quality. We enjoy praise. We enjoy having other people see us in a positive light and to think highly of us. So that's normal. So you're not a people pleaser if you feel that way. This is going to be to an excessive amount. Anything that we're talking about that you're going to say someone has this quality, someone has this issue, I guess you would say a problem, when it comes to a disorder or something like that. Those qualities that disorder has can seem like, well, those are some qualities I have. Just remember that if it's being named something as an issue, it means that that person has that behavior to a level in their life that interferes with them having the quality of life that they want to be having, or it is harming other people around them to a level that is detrimental. So that's always something to keep in mind, because a people pleaser values how someone else sees them more than they value themselves in general. Their well-being in that moment is less important to them than how that person might end up viewing them. What are the main traits we all know about people pleasers? They don't like to say no. They always say yes. They bend over backwards for people. They go out of their way to help others. They always agree with everyone. They don't really say how they really feel sometimes. If it's in opposition with somebody, they don't like conflict. They go above and beyond, right? They always are trying to do the right thing and make sure they don't step on anyone's toes. They care a lot about what other people think about them. They spend a lot of time worrying about that, right? So really in line with an anxious person. There's a lot of anxiety that goes into people pleasing. It's fueled by anxiety. That is one of the main fueling factors. So of course, out of all the attachment styles, very typical for anxious preoccupied people to have the people pleasing tendency. Here are some reasons why people pleasing is problematic, okay? Because people pleasing is a particular type of behavior that often gets looked at as benevolent. It often gets to slide under the radar as a very sweet and kind and giving and good quality. What's so bad about it? Oh my gosh, someone's pleasing me too much. Boo-hoo. You know, why would anybody want to complain about that? I mean, if people pleaser wants to please people and that makes them happy, and the other person's just getting all their needs met and being pleased, that should make them happy. So is it really all that bad? What's so bad about it? And I'm sure many of you know at this time the answer to that. But if you don't, you think like I used to think.
What is so wrong with what I do? I'm so giving. I do everything for the people that I love. I give so much of myself. Why do I keep getting these outcomes where I just don't feel like I fit with anyone? I just don't feel like I get reciprocated. I just don't feel like anyone really loves me or values me or connects with me or stays with me or gives to me the same heart that I give away.
That's common with people pleasers. I'll take it a step further and be even more transparent about the beginning of my study in attachment theory. I was the anxious preoccupied. My partners were often at least some level of avoidant. So I would often end up in these dynamics. And while I would sit there and I would try to learn what my part in it was and what it would sound like to me, if I'm being very honest, is that the avoidant person was the problem. Go figure. Okay? They're the problem. Like, what is wrong with them? Why are they so rude? Why do they want to be in a relationship if they just want to avoid people? Oh, poor them. They have the anxious partner that just like so anxiously wants to love them. Like, oh, I'm so sorry. That's literally how I felt about it. That's how I viewed it. As much as I wanted so bad to take accountability and like, well, okay, but
Really explain to me what the anxious partner is doing so wrong besides being so good-hearted and letting some jerk and some bully walk all over them because they're just so nice.
Oh dear.
like, what are we? Oh, I just felt like the better one of the people that were making mistakes. You know, I'd rather be that one. I'd rather be that person that's making the mistake of just loving them too much. But I was missing something very key in there. And so I think that more than ever before, I now very much get it. And I most definitely did not understand how it could be harming others. I thought it was helping others. I thought I was so helpful and giving to others. That's all I wanted to be. So when people would inexplicably dislike me strongly, I was confused. I was just like,
What the heck? What is there to dislike? I've literally done everything nice for this person. Been nice from the moment they laid eyes on me. And I've never been rude to them. I've actually been exceptionally dripping with kindness towards them. Why are they being so standoffish and rude and seem to have something out for me? They don't like me. Why?
I never understand it. So stay tuned for this video because I'm going to get to that. I'm going to explain it very thoroughly. First, let's talk about different types of people pleasing that they can engage in. So I've categorized people pleasers into 4 different categories. I have many years experience in the people pleasing field, okay? So I know exactly what the type of people pleasers are. So the first type of people pleaser is the selfless giver, okay? This is your martyr, your sweet, kind overachiever, but not overachiever in the way of goals and academics or career or things like that. It's overachiever in pleasing people and giving to people. So anytime there's any opportunity to be giving or do something for someone, these are your people that are going to overdo it.
Ouch!
These are your people who are going to make a personalized gift that was handmade for every single member of the office on Christmas. They're going to be the person that's going to decorate your whole desk for your birthday, and they barely know you. They just work in your office, okay? They're going to do that for every single person there, always, excessively. They're going to be the person who, for your birthday, plans a very elaborate scavenger hunt with all your favorite things and knows every single thing about you and everything that you like. They have it planned out to a T. They have it in your favorite color scheme. They have all your best friends there. They give to a level that no one would ever expect anyone to have gone that far into something and done something that kind and thoughtful. They're going to take every opportunity possible to do this. Selfless giver, people pleaser, is motivated by praise, by recognition, by validation, and they want that image. They want that reputation. Okay, so this person is going to be likely your people pleaser that is not going to have it focused on any particular person. They want to do this for everybody in their life. They want to do this for as many people as they can. It's not selective. It's all the people that are in their lives on a daily basis. So it's everybody at work. It's all of their friends. It's every one of their family members that they see on a regular basis. It's likely even maybe strangers that they interact with on a daily basis. Whoever they come in contact with at the coffee shop. This would be the person that's going to step in at the grocery line if someone's struggling to find their change. They're going to step in, they're going to give their change to that person. They're going to always be, any chance, any opportunity that they see, they are going to seize the opportunity and just give so much of themselves. Some unexpected behaviors you might see from this type of people pleaser is them getting excessively upset when a situation arises where they see an opportunity to be helpful and they somehow, for some type of circumstance, cannot deliver on that opportunity, and then it passes them by. So, for example, someone in the office asks for a stapler.
Does anybody have a stapler?
Let's just say that there's not a office-wide stapler in that office, and people don't usually need staples in the work that they do. But this people pleaser, they tend to have a lot of different tools and mechanisms and supplies that they don't necessarily actually use or need. They just have it on deck because they're always wanting to be ready to please people. Their grand opportunity arises because someone in the office said the magic words, "Does anybody have a stapler?" And people pleaser, of course, has a mini stapler in their desk, with all their other random tools that they don't necessarily need. And so they're like,
I do.
and they're going to scramble to go get it. But they open the drawer and the stapler's gone. It's not there. It's missing. Where is it? I can't find it in the drawer. This is going to set them into an absolute panic and a scurry to find this stapler that they have been reserving and hoping for this very moment to occur. And now it's happening. They have a window of time because people are impatient and they are going to move on from the problem if you don't deliver right away. And then you're going to miss out on your opportunity to be valuable and mean something. And you bought the stapler for this exact reason. You've never used it before. You don't need to staple anything. You've never stapled anything in years, but you bought it for this purpose and now you can't find it. Who the heck moved it? Where is it? Where could it be? And they're just going to get so upset over this. Meanwhile, the person who wanted the stapler, they decided that the document would probably be better off with a paperclip. What? So they just said,
Never mind. It's okay. Don't worry about it. I don't actually need it. I found a different result. Bruh.
this is going to ruin, this is going to ruin the people pleaser's day. It might ruin many of their days. This is going to stick with them. Because the worst thing that can happen to this type of people pleaser is to miss an opportunity to be what somebody needed. To miss a perfect opportunity to be the only person that had exactly what somebody needed. It tears them apart. It sounds crazy. It sounds insane. It sounds ridiculous. It's absolutely accurate. Ouch! Okay. I'm not proud of this. But I'm going to be authentic, okay? An example of this happening for me. I dabble in a few of the different types of people pleasers, but I can sometimes, and I have at times in my life, been this type of people pleaser. There's been many times. But one I can just think of within the past few years is I had, what was it? I had a power sander. It was like a mini power sander. And one day, my mom asked me, the grand opportunity arose. My mom was like,
Do you have a sander?
and I was like,
I actually do. Yes, I do. I have exactly what you need.
and so I jump right up. And I'm so excited to fulfill this need that someone in my life, they need something that I have and I can provide it for them. And I go to get my sander. And it's very dirty. So I decide, because it's not good enough for me to just give them what they're asking for. I need to give it to them, and it needs to be like the best thing they've ever had.
Why?
So that they're just so eternally grateful. So I decide I need to take apart the top part of the sander, and I need to shake out all the dirt and clean it all up and make it look beautifully brand new, right? So that I can offer this item to them when they didn't need that at all. But I decided that it needed to be that way, so I did that. And when I went to put it back together, I could not, for the life of me, get it to fit back together because it was made in such a way that you're not supposed to take it apart at that part that I took off. I unscrewed things, and it just wasn't made to be put back together that way. And I struggled on it for a very decent amount of time, far past when my mother came to get it. Had already gotten over it, had already moved on to purchase one. I was so upset about this for so long, so much longer than I needed to be. I was in tears. I was so upset. And I think that was one of my moments where I was already in this space really self-reflecting, and like I was really paying attention to my triggers and like, my behavior, and when things like that would happen, I would be like,
Okay, what is this? What what is this?
and that was something that really opened my eyes to my extreme and excessive people pleasing, because why was I so upset over something? It had nothing to do with me. The person who needed it already moved on and got what they needed, and they weren't upset at me in the slightest. It didn't matter. But it ruined my day. It had me thinking I was just, well, what am I good for? And that's just ridiculous. So that is something that this type of people pleaser will experience sometimes. And it sounds so silly and I'm making fun of it, but it's like, it's actually really painful. It's a really painful existence to live in when you're constantly measuring your worth on how well you can hop, skip, and jump to be people's beck and call. And it's just it's so sad. And that's not what we were meant for. It's not your value. So this is not good for you. The reason that this type can be harmful is because, one, this person likely internally has a very low self-worth. They have a low self-esteem. They can only find meaning in their life if other people are validating them. They only feel good about themselves if other people are impressed by the things that they do and are showing that appreciation and giving that praise and validation. They want to stand out in that role. So it's almost like a competition, and they are the only ones that can occupy that spot. And if you notice, if you start to infringe on that spot a little bit, like if you do something nice for the office and everybody goes like, wow, did you see Katie brought donuts this morning? Those are so good. And they say this to the selfless giver people pleaser, you might pick up some body language that person's not very happy to hear that. They are likely to feel a bit threatened by that, because that is where they get all their value from. So if someone else is just so easily stepping in and taking up some of that shine, they don't have anywhere else to get it from. They don't have it internally. So if someone steals some of that spotlight from them, they feel worthless. They feel like nothing. So they can get catty a bit, or they feel very threatened, and they might react in ways that seem jealous, or like they are putting somebody down, or they're not appreciative, or like they're trying to establish their territory and say like,
Back up, Katie. Back off. This is my turf. This is what I do. You can't do that.
and oftentimes it'll be a level of like,
That was easy. Anybody could do that.
because another person might do something that was just very convenient and didn't take a lot of effort, but it still got the job done. Like, everybody loves donuts, most people. So that's an easy way to make a whole office happy. And it might actually make them happier than the 20 little trinkets that this person made on their birthdays, that were specialized and took her so much time and effort. And they might be showing a little bit more excitement over some donuts. And that's going to thoroughly piss this person off, just to their core, okay? So there's some darkness in there. There's some negativity in there. There's some envy in there. And just, it's a low vibrational way to live your life. And it's not coming from a place that is authentically pure. And it's like, if you talk to other people about this person,
Are you friends with them?
you'll notice that nobody seems to have an authentically close bond with that person. They're just
It's like, oh yeah, she's a sweetheart. She's great.
Oh, do you guys ever hang out?
I've never, no. I think she's just a homebody. I don't really know. I don't really know what she does. I don't really know any. I don't really know any if she has a family or. Actually, I don't think she ever talks about her. About herself. I don't know what she does on the weekends. I'm just not really sure.
And you'll notice that nobody really knows anything about this person because they never are talking about themselves. They're never thinking about themselves. It's all about everybody else and just gaining everybody's approval. And so no one ends up knowing them or connecting with them or feeling much of anything towards them. So it's all very fleeting attention. And over time, the people pleaser eventually picks up on this, and it can be very devastating. Our second type of people pleaser is the guilt-tripping people pleaser. So this people pleaser is somebody who, when you first meet them, they are very accommodating. They're like, do
You want some food? You want to? Oh, I can take your car in to get it serviced today if you need some help with that. You need somebody to watch your kids? Oh, sure. I can watch them. You can just leave them here. That's fine.
just offering, making all these offerings. And as you're getting to know them, and you're just kind of authentically thinking that you're getting to know this person, and they're very giving. You're just like,
They always offer such nice things, and they're so great.
and you're actually feeling pretty connected to this person at that point because it's natural. If someone's doing nice things for you, meeting needs that are arising for you, where you're struggling most of the time. And this person, this new friend of yours or this new love interest is just like,
Oh, just let me make that easy for you. Just do this.
and you're like,
Oh, thank you.
and you appreciate that. But you're just getting to know them at a normal pace. Maybe not as many situations are arising for you that you are able to do that because maybe you have a lot more self-consideration and you're like,
Well, I can't really fit that in today. I'm not going to offer to do something that I don't actually have the time to do that would actually be detrimental to me.
but this type of people pleaser, they will offer things that are not good for them and that will be detrimental to them, that will actually really interrupt their day, that will actually really hinder things that they have going on and will be quite an inconvenience for them. But they won't say that. They will just assume that this other person knows that and can pick up on that. They will be assigning such a value to these things that they're doing that is above and beyond the value that the person who's receiving these favors even understands is attached to it. So they're probably thanking them. They're probably really appreciative, but not to the level that the people pleaser is expecting. So the problem with this type of people pleaser is that over time, and sometimes really quickly actually, they will start to stew in this resentment of seeing an imbalance where they were expecting that if they did this, it was going to be received and appreciated out of this world, and that they were also then going to be offered things of that same caliber in their eyes. And when they don't see that happening, they begin to get really upset by this. They're not going to be the type of people that are going to immediately say this straightforward. They are going to more often give silent treatments, pull away, get snappy with the person, get short with them, get passive aggressive, and then maybe eventually after a long period of time kind of blow up at them and be like,
You never do anything for me. I'm always doing all this stuff for you. You don't reciprocate. You're not a good friend. You're not a good partner.
you know, all of these things where, and then the person that's on the other end of it is just like,
Are you kidding me? Like, what? I didn't understand that. I didn't realize you were keeping a tally. What kind of crap is this?
and that does not make people feel close to you. That makes people distrust you because you are coming off one way and then they trusted that to be how you actually felt and what you wanted to actually do. But meanwhile, all along, you were doing things that you did not want to do. You didn't mean it genuinely, and you were expecting something in return that they weren't aware of. And then you held that against them, which is not fair. So they're going to be very wary of you after that. They're going to be like,
Okay, I'm not going to let that happen to me again because that doesn't feel good.
no one wants to be made to feel like they've taken advantage of someone when they were not trying to take advantage of someone. And therefore, it's going to make people pull away. This also can show up in ways where, like, people that they are close to, like people maybe in their family that aren't going to just, decide not to be around them anymore. They're going to be in their family, so it's going to just continue on. These types of people, they don't feel like they can say no. That's kind of the underlying issue. That's the underlying issue with a lot of people pleasers. They don't feel like they have a right to say no, or they don't feel like they will be liked if they say no. Either for the acceptance or just because they literally don't have enough self-confidence and worth to think that they even have the right to say no to things. Then they won't say no. So if you ask them something, they almost take that as you making them do something, them having to do something. There is no yes or no. There is only they have to do this now because you asked it of them and they are capable. So they don't consider the fact that they can just say no because they don't want to do it. So then they feel upset at that person for even asking, because it puts them in the position where they are faced with the task of having to say no if they didn't want to do that. And since they don't want to have to say no, they will more often just feel like they have to do the thing that they don't want to actually do. So then you'll get a lot of someone guilt tripping you. You get a lot of someone saying, okay, sure, I'll do that. But then they're angry at you while they're doing it. They have an attitude with you while they're doing it. They tell you how much is inconveniencing them while they're doing it. They're sighing the whole time they're doing it. They're just pissed. They hate it. They don't want to be doing it, and it's very palpable and evident.
This people pleaser's thought process will become really evident if you have a conversation with them, if it ends up being something that you guys do and actually confront. They will make the argument, oftentimes, that it's you who keeps asking them for things that are pressuring them and that are unreasonable. And why do you keep asking for these things? And you ask for a lot and you're asking for this and that. And they'll try to make that their argument, which will have you very baffled, because you will be of the understanding that we all have free will and we all have the right to say no. And it doesn't matter if someone asked you for the world, you can say no. So it's just not really a sound argument. But they will believe that wholeheartedly that you are doing something to them because you keep asking them for favors, when truthfully it is them that is having the problem with not feeling like they have the right to say no. But they aren't fully consciously aware of that at this time, if this happens.
And then that leaves the other person in this position of like,
Dude, why'd you even say yes then? Why did you say yes? I could have moved on and asked like somebody else if they were available and would be okay with doing this. And then we wouldn't have been in this situation today where you're very obviously upset about having to do this. And now I'm having to also deal with you being upset about it. And then I feel like crap because I wish I didn't ask you to do it for me because like you're making me feel bad.
so no one likes that. No one likes to be in that position, not the people pleaser or the other person. So it just makes for a terrible outcome. And then over time, people are just going to be like,
just don't ask that person because they always get upset about it.
if you've ever had somebody make you feel bad about a favor that they did for you, I think you probably recognize it's hard to appreciate them for doing that favor. Because how can you appreciate someone who berated you or put you down or seemed like they were miserable the entire time they did this favor for you? You're not going to feel very appreciative of that. You're going to feel more like,
Gosh, I wish they would have just said no. I wish they wouldn't have done this for me because I feel like crap.
so it doesn't make anybody feel good. It's just a bad outcome for everybody involved. Over time, they realize that their excessive efforts to push themselves to do these things that they didn't want to do anyway, just because they wanted to be liked, that they squandered all of that. They've squandered relationships. They've put distance between themselves and the people that they love. But they also weren't happy along any part of that. So they've just wasted a lot of time and energy and not gotten anything they wanted out of it. So that can be a devastating outcome. The third type of people pleaser is your self-sacrificing people pleaser. This type of people pleaser is going to be that person that is always willing to give up even their essential needs and dreams and interests and what they might want in the moment and what they might be thinking in the moment and what they want to say and anything about themselves. They are willing to sacrifice that, throw that all the wayside, to immediately rather promote what the other person wants to do, what the other person thinks is best, what the other person likes, their dreams, their goals, everything. That is always going to take a front seat, and while they are going to just chuck themselves right to the back seat and completely throw that to the wayside. If you guys are talking and maybe you interrupt them, but they're going to act like they interrupted you and they're going to let you talk. Or if
people are trying to raise their hand to make a statement and two people raise their hand at the same time. This people pleaser is going to be like, no, you go ahead. This people pleaser is going to allow people to cut in line in front of them. This people pleaser is going to get stuck trying to get out of a parking lot and let a lot of cars go ahead of them, even if they are very late for work and on their last warning. This people pleaser is going to always do what their partner wants to do and never speak up about their own wants, dreams, interests, things like that. If you're picking a movie, this people pleaser is going to be like,
well, what do you want to watch?
If you have a difference of opinions, this people pleaser is going to excessively try to see things from your point of view and not stand up for themselves or require that you see anything from their point of view. They'll be more willing to just ditch everything they thought and come over to your side, even if that's not really how they feel inside. When someone picks up on the fact that a people pleaser is doing this, it's a turnoff. It's a repellent. It's something that makes you want to pull away because it's like, why are you trying to be everything I am? You're supposed to be you, not me. When you're self-sacrificing, there's no way to avoid this, no matter what. It subconsciously sends a message to other people 100% of the time that you are behaving in a desperate manner, that for some reason you have a desperation about you towards them. And it is human nature, and it's just complete instinct for that to trigger something in other people that says, pull away. They do not like it. And it also shows evidence that you do not have self-consideration. And self-consideration is one of the most attractive qualities when you're first meeting a person that human beings instinctually look for in others when they're looking to have a quality relationship with that person. It's very important that you consider yourself. You're subconsciously telling that person how to treat you. And if you say with all of your subconscious signals that you're not really worth much, which is what you're doing when you self-sacrifice a lot, they're going to also believe subconsciously, without even knowing it sometimes, that you are not worth very much. That's why this is scary for you. So it's easy for some people to take advantage of this, even by accident. Because it's like, well, if you're going to tell me I can have, it can be my way and it can always be my way, well, great. They're going to be more the type that are going to get beaten down over time over people taking advantage of them. One of the confusing traits of the self-sacrificing people pleaser is that they actually almost enjoy when they are inconvenienced for their partner. Maybe even sometimes their friends. But it's only going to be like their closest people. They enjoy that. They get something thrilling out of that. So if it's not feeling like an inconvenience, if they're not sacrificing something sometimes very important to them, if it's not happening like that, then they don't feel like they're pleasing. They don't feel like they're doing enough. So that's kind of like their internal signal that that's where they get a lot of their validation from, even if it's not necessarily yet being validated externally. They just imagine that it is, and that's their sign that they're doing the right things, is that they're inconveniencing themselves. So this people pleaser will be quite a bit different from the guilt-tripping people pleaser because they have different underlying motivations. Okay, so the guilt-tripping people pleaser, their underlying motivation is image, for one. And they're also motivated by a lack of self-empowerment. They don't believe that they have a right to say no to things and turn people down. They feel obligated to people by just them asking. So it's different for the self-sacrificer people pleaser because they're going to be more motivated by external validation and gaining love, approval, and devotion from just their close-knit people, especially their romantic partner. So the guilt-tripping people pleaser isn't necessarily going to feel happy or thrilled at actually doing these acts for their loved ones. They're going to feel inconvenienced. It's going to feel like an inconvenience to them. Whereas even if it is an inconvenience for the people pleaser that's self-sacrificing, that actually makes them feel joy to even do that act. Self-sacrificing in and of itself makes them feel joy.
They enjoy that more. And they care about that more. That gives them more validation than doing things that would be just solely good for their lives and themselves and would be in their best interest. So they will sacrifice those things and instead inconvenience themselves for their partner. So that's how the two are different. The self-sacrificer isn't going to be resentful just from doing the act, just from inconveniencing themselves, and just from sacrificing, whereas the guilt-tripping people pleaser is going to be irritated right away. They're not even going to make it to resentment. They're just going to be frustrated right there in the moment of actually even doing it. That is not to say, though, that the self-sacrificer doesn't ever reach resentment. But the only time, period, when they eventually reach that level is because, for one, the self-sacrificing people pleaser does often end up with the partners that are unappreciative of what they're doing and don't see their worth and kind of tell them that they don't do anything right and don't do anything for them.
And let's just pause here for a moment and contemplate why that might be the case. Why would this people pleaser that self-sacrifices and wants to do everything to make their partner happy, even at the sacrifice of themselves, why do they often end up with people who take advantage of that, exploit that, put them down and make them feel like they aren't good enough, they aren't worth enough, and they can't do anything right? Because that is what internally they feel about themselves. Because remember, whatever you feel about yourself is what you're subconsciously sending a message about to everybody around you, about your worth and how you deserve to be treated.
And so when they realize that the people that they have just sacrificed very important things in their life to please, maybe they sacrificed thousands of dollars to provide something that would, just like knock their socks off and wow them, something for their future. Or maybe they sacrificed time that they should have been studying for a school program that they're in, and now they're behind and they're not going to pass. Not good, right? Or maybe they sacrificed time with their family and friends, and now they have distant relationships. And then only to find out in each of those situations that what they sacrificed that for, to give to their partner, is now being said is nothing.
You don't do anything for me. Oh, you thought that was a big deal? Okay, well, wow.
That's devastating. That is when the self-sacrificer will start to point out the things that they do, be very vocal about it. This is going to affect them to their core. This is going to destroy them because they basically have given everything that they are. They've put all of that into this relationship. They've put their entire worth based upon this person appreciating the sacrifices that they make. And when this person doesn't, and instead plays mind games with them and makes them feel like they haven't really done anything and that they're not that valuable, and who do they think they are? And it makes them feel dumb and stupid and worthless. That's exactly how they feel. They believe them. And at times they might, when someone's backed into a corner, when someone feels mistreated and bullied and taken advantage of and just used up, there's times that they are going to lash out. There's times that they are going to have meltdowns, breakdowns, really low times. So there's going to be conflict. There's going to be tears. And it's going to be a toxic relationship. This one doesn't turn out pretty at all. It's a really sad one. This is most similar to how my relationship turned out. The people pleaser that I am the most. This is probably my category. And these types of relationships, actually, repetitively, their relationships can be places where they initially feel on top of the world because it gives them all their self-worth. And everything that people have as basic needs that they're supposed to be giving mostly to themselves, people pleaser gets all of those from the relationship. The anxious preoccupied tends to get all of those from a relationship. So when they end up with these types of people and it doesn't get appreciated and it doesn't get seen and they get kind of beat down and exploited in this way, they don't have anything. all of their worth and everything that they are is in this relationship. So when that goes down the tubes and that's treating them terribly and emotionally abusing them and hurting them, they have nothing. They don't feel like they can survive. They feel like they're dying. They don't feel like their life has meaning. They don't have anything to live for. This is very dangerous. And no one ends up happy in that situation, once again. And the part that's hard to understand sometimes is that for a huge portion of while the people pleaser is doing this, it's all locked away in their subconscious programming. So, speaking from my experience even, they genuinely believe that they're doing this straight from the heart because they just love this person, they feel such a strong urge to be viewed as good and loving and genuine and giving, and I'll give you everything I have because I'm just a good person. And that's, again, like I said, that's partially correct. That becomes their identity. That's truly who I've thought my whole life I am. And it's not that it's false. It's that it's just wrong to operate that way. It's not being a person that has self-consideration and has their own legs to stand on and doesn't need other people to make up who they are or validate their self-worth.
The real cornerstone piece of knowledge to take away here, though, is that not only does it show that you have no consideration for yourself, the fundamental problem is that it's not that you're not a nice person and that you don't have genuine love in your heart and that you aren't doing this because you're kind-hearted and love this person. All of that is actually true. I lived it. I am me. I know that's a portion of who I am. But it's when it goes to the point of that you're staying with people that have done you so disgustingly wrong that anyone in their sane mind would say, what are you doing? How can you even still be questioning this relationship? It's obvious this person doesn't love you and is treating you terribly. And I don't care what they're saying to you. It's clearly obvious. So, like, what are you doing? So the crux of it all, really, is that it is love. And it is kindness and genuine care and concern and all of that. It doesn't come from a place of purity. It comes from a place of fear. It comes from a place of insecurity. At the core of it all, you are not doing it purely out of love. At the core of it all, you're actually doing it out of fear and out of shame and out of a devaluation of yourself. That is the problem. So it doesn't mean you're not a good person and that you don't actually love people and that you have an ulterior motive in mind that's like malicious and harmful. It's that it comes from a place of fear. And nothing that comes from a place of fear is healthy for anyone.
And so this is just devastating. It's just hard. You don't realize when it's happening that that's what's happening. So at the end of all of that, there's times where it starts to look like you've just been bamboozled. You've just been taken for granted. You've just been used and abused. And that's also not necessarily untrue. Most people in this situation, they are being treated that way. This is even the worst part of it. The people pleaser in the relationship, in this type of a dynamic, even if the other person did mostly do everything incorrectly towards that person, even if that person hurt them, was in the wrong, has done countless things that are just rude and unacceptable to them, and they're just only now starting to stand up for themselves a bit and kind of buck back a bit. At the end of that, they're still the anxious person. They're still the anxious preoccupied, so they are still desperately in need of this person's love and this person's proximity and this person's attachment and this person's connection, and they still have that clinginess about them, that neediness. So they're going to be way more desperate to repair that bond at all costs. So they will be the people that will sacrifice. Again, they'll step back right back into that self-sacrificing role and apologize to this person. And if that doesn't work, they might get a little more desperate. They might start even nearly begging almost for this person They might start crying and going out of their way to try to get this person back close to them that started the whole drama, that was mistreating them in the first place. And then this person that already means harm towards them and already isn't being very good to them, it's going to get a little boost of ego in that and start going like,
oh yeah, of course you're going to come crawling back now. Yeah, you shouldn't have done that to me, huh? You shouldn't have talked to me like that. You shouldn't have blah, blah, blah. You shouldn't have treated me like that. You shouldn't have tried to go up against me like that.
and they're going to almost enjoy letting the people pleaser fall all over themselves, letting them suffer in that punishment, so to speak. And if I can tell you, if there's anything in life or in this cycle that just destroys your self-worth, it's that cycle. It's that. When someone has done you so wrong, just objectively, they have done you so wrong. They have disrespected you, underappreciated you, and just done so much to disregard your value as a human being when they were supposed to love you. And then on top of all of that, because you happen to be the less confident, because you happen to be the more people-pleasing, because you happen to be more self-sacrificing, because you happen to be more needy and clingy to the relationship and need that more in your life. You're not avoidant. You end up begging or pleading or crying for your own abuser, the mistreater, the bully, the person who's treating you wrong. You end up almost begging for them back, begging for them to stop mistreating you, chasing after them, apologizing to them for the ways they ignore you, neglect you, dismiss you, only for them to reject you. Enough said on that. So that is why people pleasing is not good, okay? Not good for you, not good for anybody. All right, and the last type of people pleaser is our over-promising, under-delivering people pleaser. Okay, so this people pleaser is someone who's all talk, no walk, all right? So they're the type of person that is always wanting to be viewed as good. So that is their motivating factor. They won't always be seen as nice, kind, good. They will actually pursue what they want to do. They will actually end up doing what they want to do. But they won't be forthcoming about it. So they won't say no to your face. They will actually promise to do what to make you happy in the moment. And then they just will not deliver. They just won't be around to actually do it.
You'll notice with this type of people pleaser that they do a lot of future promising. It isn't often an offering of help in the moment when they see a need. It's more so feeling pressure of seeing a need, feeling guilty that they should be helping their loved one, and not wanting or not being able to do it at that moment. So they're future promising, thinking that they will be more available at a future time when they promise it. So it's a lot of having the desire to be there for someone, wanting to help out, but not truly being willing to sacrifice or take the steps that are necessary to put in that effort that would actually yield results of helping that person. It's also them not recognizing that them continuously future promising is a sign that they actually just don't really want to do that. They want to help their friend, they want to help their loved one, but they don't want to do what that would entail. And so it will continuously get put off. It will continuously not be done to a high quality.
They're not doing it on purpose. They just overpromise. They overpromise in the moment to make you happy, but then they don't actually go into the next few moments or days or whatever it would actually take to put effort into making what they promised happen. They don't do that. They just go on about their life because they got out of that in the moment. They got out of the shame of like having to say no, and they pleased you. They meant it in the moment, but they didn't actually put in place the things that they needed to so that it actually would happen. So for example, this would be like a coworker who maybe they see you struggling with a project. They happen to be walking by, so they kind of get caught up in the back and forth with you about it. Like in that moment, they want to make you feel better. They see you're struggling with something, you're unhappy, they feel compelled to need to help you. So they're going to promise something. They'll be like,
don't worry about this. Just leave this here for now, and I'll come in early tomorrow with you. We'll get it all done. Don't worry. We'll knock this out. And just cheer up.
And then that will make you feel like,
Oh, okay. Like the load is off my shoulder. Thank you so much, friend. Like, thank you.
and so then people pleaser will be pleased with themselves. They made this person happy. They've solved the problem, right? It doesn't progress then in their mind much further past that point, because the moment that they walk away from that situation, they have moved on. They aren't thinking about that anymore. What will happen is that people pleaser the next morning they would need to do to make that happen is they would have to set an alarm, go to bed earlier, actually plan for completing what they promised, which is getting there to work an hour early so they can help you with this project. But what will happen is you'll arrive at work the next morning an hour early, and people pleaser will not be there. And so you'll start kind of working on the project by yourself. You're now one more day behind on this project. You're now pressed more for time, when yesterday you probably would have just continued on, maybe been more stressed and had a lot more going on yesterday, but you would have stuck with it and completed it. But because people pleaser promised you that they would come in early today and do it with you to this morning, here you are now, an hour early before work, but they're nowhere to be found. So then 20 minutes goes by and you get a text message from people pleaser who has been jolted awake by their alarm and realized,
Oh my gosh, I promised
you.
that I would be there this morning an hour early. Crap.
Now they're just hurling out of bed. They're in a whirlwind. They're trying to get ready. They've totally botched this. They're texting you. They're
Like, I'm so sorry. I overslept. I'm going to get there as soon as possible.
now they're rushing. They're feeling overwhelmed by this. They're stressed out. They don't want to do this. They actually they never thought, they don't think ahead to the moment of when they have to actually deliver on what they said. So then they're also a bit agitated that they are now having to do this, even though they offered it. They meant it when they said it, but when it comes time to do it, they don't want to do it. But they feel like they have to. So they're going to do it, but to the lowest possible level that they could possibly do it, because they don't actually want to do it. So then people pleaser is going to stumble in about 15 minutes till time to begin work, when you have now been here an hour before your shift doing precisely what you would have been able to get done yesterday if they hadn't promised you this. But you're even more behind because of the time that you stopped and started again, and the day went by, and now the deadline is approaching, and there was no need. You didn't need to get up an hour earlier today, because none of this just even needed to happen, because this person has put you now in this position where they were trying to help you. But you can see how that turned out terribly. And this is what gets people really frustrated with this type of people pleaser, because they're always promising something. They're always promising. And they're rarely delivering. And when they do deliver, it's so bare minimum. So people pleaser stumbles in 15 minutes before it's time to clock in. They have to then go to the bathroom, and then they have to go put all their stuff down. By the time they get over to help you, there's 5 minutes that they can work with you. And they're trying to rush through the project. They're frustrated. They don't have time to do what they promised to do. And you're probably pretty irritated with them. So you're kind of just like,
Don't do it that way. Stop. You're rushing through my
this is your project that you've been working on for days. And they're just kind of trying to rush through it. And then when you tell them,
Stop that.
and you get kind of irritated with them, as you are warranted to be at this point, then they're getting mad at you because you are mad at them for good reason. And so then they're just like, well, they feel like they act like you're mistreating them somehow when they're there to help you. And they kind of somehow twist this in their mind sometimes, because it's the cognitive dissonance. And they feel like they just went out of their way to come and help you that morning. But they miss the fact that they created that entire situation by overpromising and then completely under-delivering. And it's like,
Well, if that's what you were going to do, people pleaser, I didn't really need your 5 minutes of help. That didn't help me.
then the people pleaser will kind of make you feel like, oh, well, you don't appreciate what I'm doing for you. But it's like,
You didn't really.
They can't see how that wasn't really a kind gesture. It was overpromising and then getting someone's hopes up for something that they didn't deliver on. And it doesn't serve anybody, once again. So don't do this. This type of people pleaser does not get the outcome that they want, and they do not make others happy by doing this. At the end result of most people pleasing comes dissatisfaction and regret and resentment. And the reason that it's very toxic is because for the people pleaser, number one, all of their self-worth and their self-value and everything that tells them that they are a worthwhile person is all based in external sources and external validation. So it's leaving up to other people to decide and determine whether or not you as an individual are worth anything. And that is absolutely backwards. When you do that, you will always arrive at the conclusion that you are worthless. Every time. Because no one can give you your own self-worth. It is something that comes from within self. So nothing external can provide it. You'll chase it your whole life, trying to keep filling that externally. And at the end of that, you just find that you still have nothing. You're still empty. I know this very well from experience. It's not healthy at all. And then it doesn't please the people that you're trying to please. So it's just not useful. Very bad tactic. Furthermore, another reason that people pleasing is not good for you is because it is not good for the people that you're pleasing. Because, truth be told, at its core, people pleasing is a minor form of manipulation. Okay? So, manipulation, the word itself, is not necessarily a negative term. It simply means to form something, try to make it go a certain way by maneuvering it to achieve your desired outcome, but it's to do so in a way that is hidden from those involved. So it's to do it in a roundabout way, a passive way, a backwards way, like a way that you're not actually revealing is how you're doing it. So that's why people pleasing is manipulation, because you are gaining love, approval, appreciation under the guise that it's just your heart, your selfless love. You don't want anything like that. You're just giving. You're just a kind person. You're getting all those kudos and all that image and all of that, right? To what? Make people like you, validate you, see you a certain way? Yeah. So you're manipulating these people to look at you this way. It's not based on pure selfless love, because you want to be viewed a certain way. You want to be thought of a certain way. You're not just doing it because you care and love that person. Period. Selfless love would be like you go and visit the elderly people's home on weekends, and you do so without any identification. I mean, you can't do that, but like, you know what I mean? There's no way to identify you. There's no way to get you any praise. You're not putting it on the internet. You don't tell your friends about it. You simply go do it. You don't know these people from people off the street, and you just go and you donate your time, and you never tell a soul that you did that. That would be selfless giving. There's not a lot. I mean, I know there's people that do that, and selfless love does exist in the world. That is real. But in relationships, we're not supposed to have completely selfless love anyway. But it goes too far in the other direction when it's being presented as you just sacrificing your entire self for the other person and calling that your kindness and your heart and just your selfless love, because that's not what it is. It's the truth be told about it is that it's your insecurity and your lacking self-worth and your belief that you won't be loved just for being the way that you are, flaws and all. So that's why it's harmful. It also repels people away from you. It destroys connections. It prevents connections. And it lands you in a place in life where at the end of all of that, you actually have less connections than you ever would have had. You actually feel very disconnected from everyone. You feel very alone. You realize that you've wasted so much of your life trying to please everyone, and no one is pleased, and you are empty.
Quiet star, quiet star, quiet star.